Staying connected. This is the motivation behind Taiwan's first ever international space conference, which brings together companies and analysts from around the world. And the focus here is on satellite technology.
Satellites, they help every aspect of modern life. So we live in a digital world, and whatever you care about, whether you care about your position, knowing where you are on a map, or you want to connect seamlessly everywhere, satellites are the way to do it.
This conference, hosted by Taiwan's space agency, is part of the country's push to become digitally resilient. Threatened by neighboring China, which sees Taiwan as part of its territory and surrounded by water, Taiwan is reliant on undersea cables to connect to the internet. In fact, there are 14 of these submarine cables connecting at 4 points on the main island. These cables can be easily damaged, and in the islands of Matsu, cables have been severed more than 20 times in the past 6 years. Early this year, 2 of those cables were allegedly damaged by Chinese ships.
这个海缆的这个部分的话，万一在接受到类似像战争或者是一些地震之类的意外灾害的时候，它发生中断的时候，对台湾自己本身来说，对外的沟通基本上就失去了。
To resolve this weakness, Taiwan is turning to its space industry. Taiwan is looking to invest more than $10 billion in its space sector by 2025, specifically on its satellite capabilities. The country recently saw successes in developing its first ever weather satellite, the Triton. Now, while its main function is to predict typhoon patterns, Taiwan is looking to take that a step further and develop satellites that will keep the country connected in the event of a crisis. Another motivating factor has been Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Even though Russia targeted key communication infrastructure in the initial stages of its invasion, Ukraine was able to maintain contact with the outside world through satellite internet. These kinds of cheap and accessible satellites are known as low Earth orbit satellites, or LEOs. They're much easier to put into orbit compared with other far orbit satellites, which means Taiwan could have hundreds of them in space, creating a network that still functions even if 1 or 2 are knocked out. This would be crucial for Taiwan in the case of an attack. These satellites could be used to coordinate a defense plan and monitor military activity.
And it's important because, as we've learned from Ukraine in times of crisis, that kind of redundancy is important not just for the connectivity, but also for military planning and the conduct of military operations.
Taiwan's digital minister, Audrey Tang, has already pledged to build more than 700 satellite terminals to help the country stay connected in the event of an attack. These would provide backup internet access, not only helping the military identify any threats, but also keeping the country connected to the outside world.
One of the big lessons from Ukraine was the importance of the commercial space industry in providing that information that was critical for Ukraine to call out Russian activity nice and early. Taiwan is on a very interesting growth path here in a new industry of space. Already got a significant number of satellites in low Earth orbit and big ambitions to build more and more capabilities.
With Taiwan's space sector expected to lift off in the next few years, the country is hoping to put the lessons learned from Ukraine into action, not only reinforcing its connectivity, but also remaining digitally resilient and prepared for any crisis. Joseph Wu and Jaime Ocon in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.